scanning the dirty windows of the rundown shacks, looking for suspicious faces. Our nosy neighbors loved to gossip, and if someone told Gretchen, or worse, Todd, that I slinked in an hour after school let out, there'd be hell to pay. I didn't catch anyone spying, so I put my head down and increased my pace until I was jogging up the saggy aluminum steps to the front door. Slipping my key into the lock, I turned the knob and tiptoed through the doorway, closing the panel behind me with a soft click. I froze for a moment, and the house seemed to exhale as nothing but silence met my ears. I was alone. Rushing to my bedroom, I closed the door and grabbed the metal patio chair pushed under the TV tray that served as my desk. Tilting it onto its hind legs, I shoved the backrest under the doorknob. I pulled the deodorant, toothpaste, soap, and shampoo from my bag and walked to my closet. Setting my loot on the floor, I dropped to my hands and knees. I brushed my fingers along the floor tiles, finding the crack I'd discovered my first week in this awful house. Wedging the tips of my fingers into the crevice, I jiggled the tile until it popped free. I pulled out the only thing inside, a threadbare white blanket with blue and pink stripes, and wrapped the items inside it before shoving it back into the hole. Replacing the vinyl tile, I hammered it down with the heel of my hand before smoothing my palm over it to make sure it was flush. "December, get your ass out here!" The bellowed words were punctuated by the slamming of the front door and the sound of shoes scuffing across the vinyl floor. Gretchen never picked up her feet when she walked. Careful not to make a sound, I pulled the chair from beneath the doorknob and set it beneath the TV tray. I was pretty sure neither Gretchen nor Todd knew I used that chair as an improvised lock to my door, as neither of them had ever tried to barge in while I was using it. I was certain I'd lose the uncomfortable seat if they ever found out. Privacy was not something a lowly foster kid like me needed, or deserved. "Yes, ma'am?" I said, my voice pleasant and eager to please. I'd learned early on that I always had to pretend to be happy in this house. If I showed the slightest bit of anger, sadness, or any other emotion that could be construed as anything less than perfect gratitude, the Holts would start taking things from me. Things like personal hygiene products, school supplies, and even food. They wanted to make sure I truly appreciated everything they provided for me. Food, shelter, and, well, that was pretty much it. And the food part was sporadic. The last time I showed the tiniest bit of dissatisfaction, I lost all my bath products, and I never got them back. "I got you something at the store," Gretchen says, digging through a brown cloth bag. My breath hitched, remembering my own foray to the store, and I counted myself lucky that I hadn't run right into her. There was only one market within a reasonable walking distance, so it was there that I went to steal the things I needed, and it was surely where Gretchen had gone to make her purchases. "Well, what are you waiting for?" she demanded. "Come and get it." She shook a small box in my direction, and I hastened over to take it from her. I read the label and forced my lips up into an appreciative smile. It was a 12-pack of feminine pads, something you'd expect foster parents would be required to provide a teen girl, paid for by the monthly stipend they received for housing her. "Thank you, Gretchen," I murmured, hoping my voice contained the required level of gratitude. "Make them last," she said. "It'll be a few months before we can afford more." With a wave of her hand, I was dismissed. I walked back to my room, closing the door softly behind me. Leaning against the panel, I stared at the box in my hand. I was actually feeling a little grateful. I hadn't even thought of stealing pads when I was at the market. Gretchen actually saved me from either being completely humiliated or having to use one of my few threadbare shirts as protection. Of course, in her mind, it was easier and cheaper to buy the pads than to have to spring for new clothes and undergarments. Clothes were expensive. Cotton was not one of the crops revived by them when they showed up, offering to save the planet after the human race pretty much destroyed it. It was not essential for life, like food or trees that made clean oxygen, so our clothes had to be made from more expensive synthetic materials. Because of Gretchen's greed and Todd's addiction, I had a minimal wardrobe that consisted mostly of